Welcome everyone to another episode of Raising the Bar, and today I've got my friend Espen Roed. How you doing, mate?
Doing good, thanks.
I wanted to bring you on because I don't know how we first connected. I think just over Facebook posts or something like that. But we obviously share a very similar view on the world, and it's funny how I've lost a lot of my friends from day-to-day life, and I sort of replaced them with Facebook friends and people that share similar views to me.
I think that's how it goes for a lot of people these days.
You think?
Yeah, for sure, because you're kind of finding people that you are on the right kind of frequency with,
Yeah.
and people from the past, they fall off, basically.
Do you know what? I've noticed that, and I'm kind of like all right with that now. I was trying to hang on to them before, but now I'm just like, well, it's like a detoxification process. It's just like you're having a spring clean of your friends. So
Yeah,
I'm all right with it.
And it's this whole thing has opened new possibilities. We can connect to people we have never been able to connect to before. It just hasn't been possible. And now you can feel when you're on Facebook or whatever, you can feel the vibe of other people. You can realize where they are in their heads and in their hearts also.
Yeah.
You just feel it.
And what do you do then? I mean, are you someone that would hold back in front of family and friends, or do you just go full pelt?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think you'd probably go full at it and just let them fall away, right?
I'll always tell you, if you ask me, I'll always tell you what I think, what I really think.
Yeah.
But if nobody asks me, I'm not necessarily going to say anything, Depends on the situation.
Yeah.
There's not always a need to make a point. Some situations just fly by. I don't get involved.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, you pick your
But
battles.
if they bring the point and they ask me specifically for what I think about this now, I'll tell them for sure, every time.
Yeah. Yeah, good man. Well, let's start off with one of those, because I think that I'd quite like to ask you about your background in Tantra, because I've dabbled in that as well. And I know that what you write about now, it's talking about like the polarities and the feminine and the shadow feminine and so on. Like, how did that start for you? Let's go into that, and then we'll move that into sort of how that applies to politics and everything else.
I think it started when I was very young, like 6-7 years old, because I had a sense of women or girls or the feminine from that age. I could feel it, and I could also feel sort of the shadow side at the same time. So I could feel the purity of the feminine, the true feminine, and the shadow side, and the sort of complicated, confused, aggressive, manipulative side. So I was aware of this from that age, and went through life like everyone else, sort of just looking intuitively for that, seeking it, the real thing. Not all the fake stuff they present, or women present, or also men present, but the real thing behind it. And not everyone's got it, or it's so deeply buried that you can't get to it.
What are you referring to there?
A certain energy, a certain frequency, sort of an openness, a pure openness, kind of honesty, and very uncomplicated honesty, and a feeling, what sort of feeling they live out of,
Yeah.
Because people live from different vibes in themselves, and you can feel that where they're coming from. So as a kid, I could feel this, and I went after it, but I couldn't put words on it at that time. That came later. So all the usual stuff with heartache, disappointment, sexual exploration, messing it up, all that stuff, normal stuff, I went through just like all kids do, all teenagers do. And at one point, something just sort of clicked in me that you just kind of get it. I understood how to get through all that stuff and sort of connect with a woman inside, the true woman inside a woman. And that sort of became the first sort of conscious experience of that, you know. I connected it with understanding. And then I started to move through, like, operate from that basis, connecting to the feminine on that basis consciously, and gradually going in deeper and deeper and deeper, and also sort of understanding the split in the woman through that process between her sexual being and her mind, her ego, her personality, who she thinks she is. There's a big difference between that. So from there, it sort of became obvious that when I met women, I'm speaking to two levels at the same time. The mind ego level, the one she thinks she is, she really believes she is that, and her intuitive, instinctive feminine being, which is based basically in the sex and the heart.
The sex and the heart, yeah.
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 So, so that's an interesting situation, because when she speaks, you listen with two ears, one on that level and one on the other level. And you kind of think, well, who should I listen to here? Who's telling the truth? What's the state of her sexuality? What type of energy is there? Is she in contact with it at all herself? Does she know she's in contact with it? So, and if she does, I mean, then you start to try to look for a bridge to the mind, that what you see and what you feel in her, she doesn't necessarily know how to connect with that herself. She needs actually your help to do it. Then you need to find a bridge to guide her mind to accept feeling that in herself, because they may be totally cut off. You know, she denied, chucked away, basically. So that's a kind of a language by itself, that you learn to relate on that level, on a double level, with the feminine, the person and the feminine. You could say it like that. Yeah. And that opens up all kinds of interesting opportunities, you know, because most people are not aware of this, but you're aware of it. So that's how you operate in the world, speaking to at least two levels at the same time. And you can speak back to it. You know, you can kind of cut through the mind, and with a certain, if your energy is right, you can connect directly to the feminine core, and it will respond to you. And suddenly it comes out in her eyes, her skin, body language, and so on. And also maybe in the mind, maybe, but not always. So that's how I got started, you could say. My interest for women and my love for women, love for true woman, the real thing, not just what they put up or what they think society wants them to be like. Do you know what I mean? So from there, I kind of realized, okay, I'm starting to know things other people don't. That was obvious. Most people don't know this. So when you speak to people about it, they think you're crazy, maybe, or they think you just have you're a womanizer or something like that. All kinds of responses. But some people also get what you're talking about because they've felt similar things. And then just naturally, I just started sharing these things, and other things I explored through that, because basically what happens is when you get to this, the feminine starts to open up to you in women. So that gives you a chance to explore really from the inside what the feminine is. You go into it energetically and sexually and so on. And you feel what's there, like all the things you've been wondering sort of reveals itself to you. And then you can share from there to other people who are curious about it, both men and women and couples. And that's how it began, basically.
So that was all intuitive from yourself then? It was just through trial and error and just kind of having that curiosity, that childlike curiosity to want to understand. And then you obviously were talking to women, and then you could see they were coming from the person or the mind or the ego, but then they also had that kind of feminine core. And then how did you tune into them energetically then? Like, were you finding them inside yourself? Were you finding that innocence or vulnerability within yourself and then pacing and leading, or like, how would you say?
Yeah. Yes and no. It's like the feminine in me has a certain development also. Well, at that time, it was less developed, obviously, than it is now. And there were many things that were immature in my feminine at that time. Things like, but there were innocence, emotionality, longing, and so on, different unconscious desires, You can basically, at that stage, you can compare the feminine to the id in Freud's sort of setup. The impulsive body of desire and needs and wants and longings. That is usually suppressed by people. That's a pretty good description of basic unconscious feminine. So from there, it sort of gradually developed further, but I couldn't feel myself, my full feminine being for a long time still. First, I felt it in women. I just felt these unconscious things in myself that it's connected with my feminine. But I could feel the feminine much more fully in women, instinctively, as a man, and be interested, drawn to that.
What is that? What is that feminine though? What can you define it? Can you describe it?
That's the thing, and it's very hard to describe. You sort of have to stumble upon it because it's unconscious to women themselves. So you can describe it in outer terms, like certain qualities and so on, but it doesn't capture it. It's not, that's not it. It's just sort of a superficial way of trying to capture it. But the real thing, you have to feel yourself, and it is an energy. So when you sort of become attuned to what energies are, then it becomes obvious to you. And it has a direct effect on you, and you on it, you on her. You don't need to say anything, or there is no mental understanding or analysis or anything, labels or anything like that, categorization, nothing. You are not interested in that at all. It's just pure attraction, you could say, that sparks and energy. And it's a part of that we all know. It's like falling in love, you know? But that's only a small part of it. It's much more than that. It's a much deeper and total sort of all-consuming quality. You're completely in it. And it's sexual. It always has the sexual quality about it. And that's interesting because women don't really like these days to generally to identify as a sexual being. They like to deny that. They're a mental being. They're an ego. They know everything. They can argue about everything. But that part, they don't want to know about. They don't want to identify with it. So that means they reject it somehow. So as a man, if you're in touch with that, if you can feel that in a woman, that energy is conscious in you. So when you meet a woman like that, and you hold that energy in yourself, you can awaken it in her or make her remember it, make her feel it. Some women get very, very nervous and aggressive when you do that as a man. They get afraid, they get really scared of you because they know that you do it. But they don't want to go there. And you're doing nothing but energetically. You're just seeing them. You're seeing into that energy, and they feel seen in that. But that's a part of them they have put behind a door and thrown away the key.
So you're mirroring their tension towards going into that kind of sexual self. Like you're reflecting back the blockage that they've got, right?
Not reflecting you, just going through it.
Yeah, going through that.
Through it.
Yeah. You see
through it.
Just you being the observer can.
No, you're not. You're not even the observer. You're actually penetrating them energetically. You're going into it,
right,
so that you can feel that energy in them, even though they don't feel it themselves until the moment that you do. And then they can feel it. When you see it in them, they get in touch with it. And that's a feeling they've buried, thrown away, and they're afraid of feeling it. So then you become a kind of a threat, you know? You stir something that they are not prepared to be stirred in, or the ego is not prepared to be stirred in, because it created a safe space.
Yeah.
You know about safe spaces. It's very popular these days. So it's the same thing. It's a safe space of the ego. Don't tell me anything I don't want to know about myself. Don't show me anything. Don't show me I'm bigger than I am, and nothing like that. Don't expand my mind. Don't expand my sexual body. Don't expand me emotionally in any way. It's my safe space. That's the ego. So you do the opposite, because it's the only, I mean, you can't relate to people on that level of the ego anyway. There is nothing there for you, you know? It's just pointless. So, and so when you meet women like anyone, it's, for me now, it's so natural. I don't think about it. It just happens. So it's just what I see and what I connect to. But some women are so disconnected from it, they can't be moved in any way. They're totally disconnected. They're just ideas about themselves as a woman. They're not a woman, not really, just physically. Exterior, in an exterior way, but not energetically. They're not a feminine being. So, but some are in touch with it, but it's buried, and some are connected with it consciously, or at least intuitively. And they recognize what you're doing. They recognize that, wow, he's seeing what I've been longing to be seen in by men for as long as I can remember, but no man has ever bothered to see me here. That's what they're waiting for. That connection, that feeling of intimacy, because that's what it is. It's a feeling of actually meeting, of pure intimacy, when you are seen in your most core self. Then you know that you're not alone. You know that you are connected with someone. It's possible. And that's when connection opens and energy begins to flow. The true, you could call it true tantric energy, begins to flow then from the point of connection, just like electricity. You need to connect. And when you're connecting, the electricity starts to flow, and you can both feel it. And then you know you got something, and you choose what to do with it. There is magnetism, and there is electricity, there is charge, there is something to take further, not just what's your interest, what do you like, what do I like, what is expected of us. No, there is something real, you know, something worthwhile energetically to pursue, to go into.
Yeah, that electromagnetism. I mean, I've had that where I've been on a date with a girl, but she's been so stuck in her head. She's a very beautiful girl aesthetically, but there was just no resonance. There's no electromagnetism. And then it kind of just petered out. And then another girl came along. She wasn't very aesthetically pretty, but there was such a strong magnetic connection that it was just like, it was like a tidal wave. It just took over, you know. And
exactly. If you don't have that energy,
yeah,
that's what it does. It peters out. Because eventually you just run out of stuff to talk about that have no energy in it.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, okay, that was it. What now? Nothing. There is nothing more. Go home.
So are you when you're understanding women in this way, is this just sexually then? Is this just the women that you have that kind of resonance with, that electromagnetism with? Or are you also talking about women like you would just meet in your daily life and just being able to feel into them as well?
Yeah, definitely. In the shop, in the bus, anywhere, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long. It could just be a look, or it could be a meeting, or it could be just you are on the different side of the train or the subway, and just feeling each other out. You know, you can sense each other, even though you don't really look at each other. You can be fully aware of each other's, you could say, each other's energy, and you know that you are feeling each other, and you both know it.
Yeah.
So you might choose to act on that or not. That, you know, that's not the point, but it happens everywhere as long as you bring it in. You know, you bring it with you into the world. And women are energetic beings, I should say. They are completely, they don't even know that themselves, most of them, but they are actually completely, purely energetic beings. So they will always, like, you know, they can sense energetic discrepancy in a man, for example. It might not be conscious in them, but they can feel it. And when it does become conscious in them, and they become attuned to their the way they function energetically, it's very funny, because then you're sitting with a woman, and you change some of the energy in you, or you just change your energy spontaneously as a man, and immediately she responds instantly. and she might not even recognize that she does, but you can see it in her eyes. You just see she dilates like immediately, reacting to your change in your energy and in your state. They are much more attuned than men on this. So men have a much sort of a longer distance to go to get to that level of energetic sensitivity as women do. But men are usually more sort of connected to reality in a way still, which is interesting. Women tend to have a bigger split between their self-image and who they really are.
A bigger split, would you say? A bigger distance?
Split, yeah.
That's interesting.
And that causes a lot of havoc for women and for men, because men don't, and that's why women are always, or men say women are always so confusing, because she says one thing and does another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Men are really confused about this. Usually men are more simple because what they say is what they believe and what they do. With women, it doesn't work like that. So that's because of the split. When you ask her what she wants, she'll say one thing, but do the opposite. And as a man, you think, what? That's confusing. But then when you realize this doubleness is happening and you are connected with both, you stop being confused about that, because you just know who are you speaking to and who is speaking to you here. That level, or the fundamental feminine in her, that she's not consciously connected to herself. That just goes for most women, but certainly not all, because some women are connected to this consciously. And they are different, but there are very few. And you see what, if you see one, you know it immediately. If you yourself is connected to that.
So has she managed to integrate the two, are you saying, or is she just conscious of the chasm between the two?
My feeling about it is that there is a difference from early on in people's energy. Not everybody's energy is the same, and not everybody's consciousness is the same. So there is a big difference in the level of sort of natural connectedness with these things, and sort of an integration that has taken place already, even when you're a child or before that. If you believe in sort of a soul's journey that happens over many lifetimes, that starts to make sense. So some people are just more integrated by nature as kids, and when they meet people in school and so on, at the age 8, 9, 10, around that time, they do not really conform to the split in society and the conformism that begins to happen at that time, at the often almost always at the cost of truth or reality. So the more integrated women and men, they don't buy that stuff, so they rather keep true to their inner feeling and their natural connectedness. So what happens then is that when they reach puberty and start being sexual, they don't act out their sexuality based on social expectations. They act it out from themselves. So they never betray who they really are, but most people do. Most people betray who they are because they're not strongly enough connected to it. I think that's why they manage to preserve it through life much better. and choose better life paths, better partners, more suitable, that can meet them more or less. They don't sell out so easily because they can feel themselves, you know. That whole level of society conformism, and social expectations, if you sell out to that, you lose yourself.
Yeah, and I've seen that as well. I mean, I remember me and Steve, my pal from Belgium, we went to a bar, and there were sort of young people in there, and we walked in. I'm not joking, it felt like we were ghosts and they just couldn't see us. And it actually got to the point where, because they sort of had that young, immature energy where it wasn't about them actually feeling into their bodies and seeing people as people. It was almost just about upholding a certain image and looking good and going for the right sort of guys that meet the expectation of society, that kind of thing, you know. Me and Steve were a bit older anyway, but we were walking around and it was literally like we're in an alternative reality where we were amongst all these people, but it was almost as if we weren't there, we were just ghosts. And I actually tapped a girl on the shoulder and I went, "Excuse me, can you see me?" You know? and she went, "Yeah." "Oh no, but can you see me?" You know, and she didn't know what we were doing, but that was the feeling. It was like being in two different how would you say, vibrations, two different realities.
It is two different realities, and it's it's important to actually take that at face value. What your mind tells you, it's not almost like two different realities. It is two different realities. You're connected to two different energies at different levels. They are connected with some level of fantasy about how you should be, while the other level is connected to something real looking for itself. It's trying to feel itself. That's a very different point to live out from. Nobody's already baked complete. Nobody's in touch with everything we are. But there is a big difference if you are truly and sincerely looking for that, or if you are completely uninterested in that and just play fucking games. That's all.
Thing. That's the thing. I think a lot of people are. Most people probably are like that. They're just trying to fit in, and they're just interfacing on that level with everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had it where I've been sat next to a girl in this hostel, and she was very beautiful, but she kind of knew it. And I was trying to sort of connect with her on like much more of a substance level, but you could feel as though it was just her ego. You could, if you want to use that was your expression, the ego was just speaking from that place. And I said to her, I said, "Look, you're a princess." She said, "Oh, thank you." I said, "But you're not a queen yet."
That's right.
I think that kind of, it shook her up a little bit, but in a good way, because the intention was actually I was giving her this gift of this awareness, you know. And I said, and she goes, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know, the princess is the one that looks pretty, guys are all over her, you know, gets what she wants. But there's the queen that actually wants to honor herself, and it's the maturing from the princess into the queen. And the queen is when she really she radiates beauty, not from the image, but from that, you know, from her core, like who she is. And then she's able to attract the kings and not just the you know, the princes, shall we say." And you know, and I said, "You're likely to attract bad boys and people that hurt you, because that's
schemers.
That's the schemers." Because I think that's the resonance, right? There's a certain,
because she's a schemer herself, you know.
Yeah, you'd even say she's a schemer.
Oh, definitely. But she doesn't know she is. She has a self-image of being a good girl, I'm sure. But that has nothing to do with reality. The princess never gets what she truly wants because she's not ready to receive it. She's a girl, and she doesn't want to, she wants all the cakes and cookies and all that stuff, but she doesn't want the real thing because she's afraid of the real thing, because that will make her a woman or a queen.
Yeah.
She's stuck in that state. So as a man, in a way, it's our possibility and a kind of a job, archetypal job, to bring her out of the state of princess and into the queen. But you have to be connected with the queen energy and the king energy in yourself to do that.
Yeah.
If you're a boy yourself, what can you do? You can only play doctor, you know, with the princess, but nothing will happen.
Do you think that you mentioned it earlier? So you would say that you could just go in with that, let's say, king energy, and that can actually move her into her queen?
It will.
It will.
It will if she's at all in touch with it in herself.
Even in the slightest, yeah. So you wouldn't even say like come in on where she's at.
Temporarily, at least, you know, not permanently, because that's a process, but instantly, spontaneously, and temporarily, it will.
Would you come in on the level she's at first, just to pace and lead? Like, would you come in maybe at her level of ego identification?
No.
And then no, you'd go straight in, would you?
But not energetically. You have to remember the split.
Yeah.
So energetically, you go straight in.
Yeah.
But at the level of the mind and the personality and ego, that you just go along with very light. You don't need to challenge anything on that level. You just sort of keep blah blah blah, but you energetically you go straight in.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that level is a distraction in a way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's just whether or not people like these women are ready to go there. If you know what I mean. Like you can see sometimes like they start opening like a flower and then they close down again.
But maybe sometimes you also do wrong. You know, as a man, maybe you're not really connected to your true energy and so on. Maybe some nonsense comes out, and a woman will shut down because she's attuned energetically.
Yeah. And
if you, that's like a vagina is an opening.
Yeah.
So when your energy is wrong, it goes like this. If your energy is correct and it's connecting to her pussy energy and her heart, it opens up.
Yeah.
But it's immediate. So it could be you, but it could also be her.
Yeah, absolutely.
It depends. So you have to be kind of good at reading what's going on, both with yourself and with her simultaneously.
Yeah.
But you do that after a while, you just do it very naturally. You don't think about it. You don't overanalyze anything. You can, because you sense how the energy is moving. You said, okay, they're closed. All right. Okay, so you change it and it opens up again. You just work it like that. You don't need to think too much.
Yeah, when you realize you're in a sea of electromagnetism, then it's even when you're speaking, it's just like you're opening up into that sea, into that field.
Yeah.
It's not about you cobbling together anything. It's just you allowing yourself to open to it and then creating that resonance with the people that you're talking to. What would you say is that king energy then? Could you even define that, or is that undefinable as well? I mean, it is definable.
It is definable, but it's in the same way.
Yeah.
In its essence, it's not definable. So, but I'll put it this way: it is what opens the queen energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But what is it though? So, can you give us would you say it's a maturity? Is it like a strength? Is it like
it's
stillness?
It's both of that. It's a grandness is one thing, that you are big in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you have bigness in yourself, which means generosity. And I don't mean material generosity, but a generosity of spirit, that you're big, that you're not petty, you know, that you don't get into stupid shit like manipulations and lying and stuff like that. You hold your energy high, and you're generous and you're spacious.
Yeah.
All that is part of it. And also that you are truly interested in the feminine. Yeah. If you're not truly interested in the feminine, you're not in king's energy, because that's a couple. The king and the queen is a couple. They only exist together in a way, in a relating situation.
Yeah, and also I would actually say, and this, we can talk about this later, but I'd also say there's a correlation between those types of men or boys that also yield to the state, because the state is in effect the mummy, isn't it? The nanny state.
Yeah, for sure.
The socialist types.
That.
The socialist types, yeah.
It's not even socialist types. It's just like,
you know,
what, just like beta males, you know, that
beta males.
They don't like truth. They don't like reality, because it means responsibility. And it means standing in your own, you know, in your own shoes, not relying on other people like that for your own basic self-feeling. You don't need acknowledgement of all kinds of other peoples and groups the whole time. So they always seek to group dynamics for affirmation, for acknowledgement, and so on. They don't dare to stand alone. That's why they're conformists. We don't care. We can stand alone, and we are strong enough to take that, you know, and that gives you a power that they don't have, that they envy. They resent you for it.
That for me is the masculine, you know. I think the masculine is the one that is the point maker, the one that can actually stand outside the hive mind, the one that can,
of course,
can separate himself from that collectivized way of doing things and thinking.
And to do that, you have to grow up. You have to leave mommy.
That's Neo for me in the Matrix, and the agent Smiths are those statists. They're the kind of the herd.
You know.
But
very much so. We were boys. We were dependent on mommy. And that relationship defines our relationship to the feminine for a long time, until you manage to become self-contained, stand in your own shoes in the world, take responsibility for your life and all the basic stuff. But also it involves shifting your perception, which is unconscious up to that point, of what woman is or what the feminine is, because all you can see is mommy. So that has to go. So men's sexuality is so often connected to mommy, and the way that they have relationships with women, they're projecting mommy all the time onto the woman, which maybe she likes it, because every woman likes to be a mother, pretty much. But ultimately, she'll be unsatisfied, because you can't go past that. You can't see the queen behind that, you know, the deeper feminine. That is much more difficult to see, and you have to have a completely different energy in you as a man to reach it. You can't be a boy, but you can have boyishness in you. That's the same for girls. Girls can have a beautiful little girl in them. That is, but they can't be a little girl. They have to be a woman and a queen with a beautiful little girl in them.
You're adding one layer over the top of the other. I mean, it's you don't kill off the child, you just add the adult onto the child, right? And so you come from the adult, because a lot of people actually kill off the child as well, and I think that's
a mistake.
That's when you lose a lot of that youthful kind of playful energy as well, and you start to
well, I mean, if you're gonna age gracefully as you grow older, you better be in touch with that child, because it's the fountain of youth inside of you.
Exactly. And I think that is actually quite attractive to people, because it's that is that expansive kind of playful, it doesn't need anything, it just wants to play, it wants to create with people around them, you know. And I noticed that in children. I'm not talking about childishness when they're kind of throwing tantrums and needing their mummy. I'm talking about when they're in that state of play, they're in that state of creation. It's like they're channeling something from like the universal source, whereby, you know, they'll take a box, they'll take the thing out of the box and they'll play with the box and they'll like make a race car out of it, a spaceship out of it. Their imagination is just unbridled, and then they're full of play. They're not approaching people and thinking, how do I engineer this conversation? It's just this kind of it's like a fountain. It's like this fountain of creative potential that's just from this deep place, and it's overflowing infinitely around to people around them. And I think that actually is the ultimate place to come from, even like dating wise, relationships. You know, when you're meeting people, have that generosity like flowing out of you. And I think that's attractive. I think that's attractive.
So that's exactly that. What you described there is what gets lost when you start to worry too much about social rules and games and manipulations and all that stuff. That's when the child starts to lose it, and that's about 8, 9, 10 years old usually. So before that, they are very free in that way, because they're not concerned, they're not analyzing the social game, which constricts their energy and brings a lot of fear into them, you know, and occupies, it hijacks all their energy.
They go from awareness to analyzing, basically.
Yeah, you could say that.
You know,
They go from kind of a free-flowing energy to a very restrictive, angst-ridden holding of their energy, because they get punished for, not only by adults, but by other kids, for saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, all that stuff. These kids in school start to condition each other very strongly. And start playing police and hierarchy and all this type of things with each other, which is, you know, if you're a free-flowing child, that is experienced as quite traumatic in a way. It doesn't feel, it feels a bit hellish, to be honest. When you're confronted with the reality of that, it's very disappointing. And you don't want to be part of it, but you have no choice, because you have to go to school every day and you have to all that stuff.
Make sure you don't get, you know, teased and bullied and beaten up, basically.
All that stuff. So all these people, you know, we started out a little bit earlier talking about not all people are the same. They're not born with the same type of energy and quality of consciousness and so on. So we are living in multiple realities from when we are very small. So some people are very attracted to that type of reality, and some kids are not. They're not attracted to it, but they have to live it. Just like we now are being forced to deal with these cookies that are manipulating the world. Nothing has changed. It's just the people have stagnated at that level of, sort of, call it 6th grade level or 5th grade level, and they're still playing that game of domination and manipulation and compensation for what they're not really feeling. And that's why they you know, that people who are stuck in this stuff, they think that first they think that is all there is.
Are we talking about the 1%? Are we talking about the people that are dominating, you know, the 1% that are dominating the 99%, right?
But these are the same. It's the same, exactly the same consciousness as a 5th grader who does the same thing. There's no difference between that. They both believe that is the one reality, but they can sense that in you live from something else, and you refuse to conform to that which they are pushing you to, or trying to pressure you or manipulate you into conforming to and confirming as reality. They want you to confirm their reality as real. When you don't do that, you're an enemy, and they must bully you. They must punish you somehow. That's the reality they're stuck in. It's not a cool reality, but that's what they're stuck in. And they are imposing that fear that they are living with inside that reality on you, on everyone around. They use force. They always use force to try to get you to conform to their reality, which means that you confirm their reality as real.
What would that look like just in a kind of day-to-day scenario in terms of, I mean, I get it on a kind of principle level, on a narrative level, but what does that look like in terms of the rest of the people confirming their reality? Like doing what? We've got to be careful with the algorithm, with the words here, just for YouTube.
People believe that their reality is basically the reality of everyone else. That's a basic unconscious way of assuming that your reality is also everybody else's reality. So from that point of believing that, even though you maybe intellectually understand that other people have another reality, it doesn't go deep enough to break through that assumption that your reality is everybody else's reality. So what you do then is you project your reality on everyone else, and then you expect people to confirm it. Your self-image is the first thing you want to have confirmed. Like, what do I do? I have this and that kind of job, and I'm so and so, and I like this and that, and I'm good. And you project all these things, right, to the world around you, and you want people to affirm that as true. And people who don't affirm it, you don't like them. You know, that's how it basically works. So that's the ego game right there. That's the basic self-image ego that is projected out the whole time, and it is looking for confirmation, which is mixed up with love also. It's not, doesn't separate between those things, but it's really confirmation, affirmation it's looking for.
Are we still talking about the dominators here, or are we talking about everyone?
Yeah, but everyone is a dominator,
right,
unless they've broken through that.
Right.
Unless that they have from maybe some from an early age never wanted to play into the dominating games at school. They were not a part of that, but they were forced to deal with it, like we spoke about. So you cannot call them dominators, really, but there are quite few. You know, 1 of 100 or something like that, who knows? But they're not the majority. The majority are dominators. They want to be more or less. Some are very bad. They're like borderlining psychopathic, you know? Yeah. So they have a complete need to be affirmed the whole time and to get what they want from others the whole time. That's part of the confirmation game, you know, and pleasure-seeking game for them. And take pleasure in power over others and so on.
Yeah, they're the adolescents that just never grew up, and they're just taking, they're like the bullies, like trying to knock people down to elevate themselves, to make themselves feel
exactly
good. Yeah,
like that. Yeah. So that part is part of the same thing. So basically everyone has that inside of them, some very little, and they can move through it quickly, and some are part of that, and some are completely locked into that. And a lot of people are locked into it more or less. So that's what people do generally, not only the people who dominate, but also the people who want to dominate if they had the chance. They dominate in their personal lives, or they want to dominate their friends around them, or they want to dominate at work, or it doesn't matter what level it's at, because it's the same collective psychological state, basically, and the same energy they are, and reality they're locked into. A frequency prison, somebody called it, which is a good description. And they don't know they're in prison. You can only know you're in prison when you step out of it. But if you were born into it like that, that's all you know. So only when you, if you get by accident, or somehow you get to step outside and you see it from the outside, and you understand that that's not reality. It was just my reality. I was locked into it, and it sucked. You know?
I guess they have to be ready to do that work. I mean, if they're not ready to do that work, then they'll always be in that prison. That's the thing.
Yeah, but you know, every time you or me or anyone else refuse to confirm their reality, it makes them uncertain of themselves. That's why they hate it. It makes them feel they don't have a ground to stand on if nobody confirms them. So they make you an enemy, demonize you, but you know what you are, so it doesn't bother you. And when people do that, if more people do that, just stopping confirming their illusions about themselves, their self-fantasy, and their sort of psychotic need to be filled up the whole time, then eventually it starts to crumble, and they have to they have to question themselves. But as long as people keep on confirming them, and people confirm them because they usually capture something that other people need, so that they can trade what other people need for affirmation.
Yeah, for validation.
That's how
they're filling
validation, affirmation, confirmation, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, they're filling that hole. And I think energetically, they might even do it, like you say, there might even be little trade-offs going on. You know, I'll give you a little bit.
No, that's all they do. I mean, that's why these people, these hoarders who are ruling the planet and causing havoc for humanity, that's what they do. They have captured all the resources so that they can hold it ransom for what people need for basic needs in order to confirm their reality and pump themselves up.
Wow,
the whole game is about that.
Wow, yeah, that's it. It's like the macrocosm of the microcosm, or microcosm of the macrocosm. Yeah, I see that very vividly when you say it like that. If I take everything, then you have to validate me so I can give you a little crumb.
Yeah, exactly. That's the game.
That's the game.
So they've been doing it for so long, they don't know they're doing it anymore. They have no idea.
Yeah.
So wow, it's hidden on all kinds of stories and you know, ideology or whatever that they build up, but it's there. That's how it all started.
Wow, yeah.
Because they couldn't connect to themselves.
They're still the adolescent. They're still filling the hole.
Yeah.
How do we get them? I mean, do you think that the earth is just and the people on it are going through a kind of a dark night of the soul, and there is a certain healing process that's going on, as much as it's kind of very dark at the moment? Is it not the case that maybe the evil, the darkness is coming up to the surface a little bit like a pus does, right? On the body. And it's sort of like 2020, it's like the year where everything comes into vision. Like, you know, it was buried for years, but now it's, you know, for millennia, but now it's actually come up to the surface. So it's like we can now shine a light on it. Do you think this is actually the natural process of the earth going through a healing process, and all that kind of darkness is about to sort of like, you know, evaporate or like, you know, fade into light?
Yes and no.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd say yes.
It's like because these structures, these psychic structures or reality structures or whatever you want to call it, they don't move so easily. They don't dissolve just like that. As long as somebody maintains them, they are there, they exist. So they have to be, they will keep on insisting on them, because reality works like this. It's created by people believing it's real. And when you believe something is real, it is real to you. And you hold on to that because that is what you believe is everything. So for these people, they have conditioned themselves in this way for so long and have never been challenged on it. But they've gone so far in their psychopathy and their psychopathology that they have started wanting to eat everything. They can't stop. They have to just keep on feeding. So then eventually they will attract the confrontation of people who understand what they're doing, who have not been willing to confront them before because they're not deserving of any gifts, any freebies, because that's the nature of how they operate. They want to take, they want to extort, all of that. And when you feel someone operating from that and you see it, you just withdraw your energy and go a different direction. You want nothing to do with them. But now they are they're eating everything. So they are forcing the people who understand these things to confront them. And which means that finally, the light is starting to be shone on these dynamics, which have just been under the surface, unconscious before, never out in daylight. That's what's happening. And it doesn't mean that they will easily give that up because they don't know any other reality. It just means that they will become more desperate and do more desperate stuff and get uglier, because they're addicted to that sort of functioning. So it will get worse and worse and worse, but it's too late to turn around that dynamic. It's interlocked and it will go all the way. And the outcome of that, we don't know, but ultimately they cannot extinguish consciousness that is beyond their own level with those mechanisms that they are using. It will always transcend where they are. So from that point of view, they can always sort of hold you ransom to material reality, They can kill you, they can torture you, and so on. But fundamentally, they can't touch you because you've already transcended where they are and where they operate from. You live in a different reality, and that reality is yours to keep living or dying. That's your reality of your soul. That's what you've become, what you've realized as a soul. They cannot touch that unless you let them. Unless you let them hold you hostage, ransom, extort you, get you to lie to yourself to get some other need satisfied that they can give. That's what's happening. And that's what most people do. They sell out. That's what we call it. You sell out to get your job, to get it easy on work. You pretend that you take the vax. You don't say anything about the scams that are going on. You keep your mouth shut, that kind of thing. You nod your head to what you shouldn't nod your head to. That's how they get you. But if you don't, they don't get you. Because you live in truth. But they might kill you.
There's
We
too
don't
many.
know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I know, but I think there's too many to kill them all, like targeted in a targeted fashion. You know, they might be able to do an attempted, well, like a blanket kill, but there's too many, let's say, of those truth warriors to basically pick out one by one. I think who knows what they've got up their sleeve, but yeah, no, I feel you. That was
The thing is that they cling to material power,
yeah,
and they've learned to hoard that. They cling to material reality, and they've learned to use that to hold the rest of the world hostage in order to get their unconscious psycho-emotional affirmation, validation, all that you spoke about. That's the basic thing, what's going on. So that's the level they're operating from. And when you know that, you kind of
feel sorry for them.
Yeah, kind of, but you don't feel pity. You just sort of feel you lost moron.
Yeah,
I could hold my hand out to you if you showed me a sign of interest, of genuine interest, but you don't. So there is nothing I can do for you except for refusing to affirm your lie, your self-lie, or any of the nonsense you come with. That's it. And if enough people do that, the whole structure collapses.
Yeah. Maybe they just need a hug.
No, that's not enough. They don't know how to receive a hug.
That's true as well, yeah. They know how to
They don't know how to.
They would know how to take affection, but they don't know how to receive one, I think.
That's right. They're vampiric in their basic setup. They're parasitic in their setup.
Exactly,
So they don't know how to receive what you give. They only know how to take what they think they want.
Exactly.
Which is two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not even 100% sure some of these people are even human, if we're going to go down that path. But let's just say they are human. Then I think that
Well, if you've gone far enough to into this energy, you lose your humanity, you lose your human soul, and you become some kind of an astral creature that is not human. So that you do yourself, you know. If when you go too far in that, you can't recover from it.
And you see that
that's a serious consequences for these people. They're irretrievable.
Yeah. That's you see that in their facial expressions. Look at Tony Blair. Like, he actually probably started off you could argue maybe fairly normal, natural, but then as he went down the path of evil, you could see it just in his face. It's just like he looks like you can see that guy is just absolutely just filled to the brim of evil, isn't he? He looks like the Green Goblin.
It's like,
you know, that Cheshire cat, that kind of Dr. Zeus Cheshire cat smile, and like trying to like I'm smiling, you know. You can see the evil in these. Al Gore's another one. I see it in his face as well. You see it in a lot of people where they've got that. They're trying to hide the evil behind this sort of seemingly benevolent veneer, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the. Imagine how much energy they spend on concentrating on doing that. Like, and how much that occupies and hijacks their being. When you don't have that compulsion, you don't feel you have to do that. You don't have to hide who you are. You can relax and you can feel yourself completely. You know, there is nothing you have to spend energy on to keep up. All your energy can go to feeling yourself, to relaxing into yourself, to feeling pleasure. It's that fear. Fear is what they feel. They feel they have to put up this front to hide who they are. They Of course, it's true. They can't show who they are anymore because they're so fucked up. You know, they're so ugly inside that they have to hide it now. But once upon a time, they didn't have to do that. They could just, they chose to commit to that, to not showing the truth of who they are and keep spending energy on putting up a facade that deceives the world. But most of all, it deceives themselves because they're committing to feeling something that isn't worthwhile feeling.
They're subsumed by evil. I mean, it's like it's totally
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
It's a good film, you know, that kind of captures this process really well. You've seen There Will Be Blood?
No.
That's Paul Thomas Anderson, who made Magnolia, who made The Master. It's with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay.
It's an oil baron. And he digs for oil with his kid or a kid he adopts. And they live a hard life digging for oil in Texas or somewhere. And you see that gradually he makes choices that are incremental, very small, about what he commits to at different junctures of his life. He commits to lies, manipulations, and they just build up. And it gets more and more and more warped. Hence the name of the film. There will be blood. There will be destruction, self-destruction. It's a beautiful film. It just shows how that works. And it's so slow that you just get the transmission of how this actually works.
Yeah, like the slippery slope, the kind of the boiling the frog towards complete evil or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It just goes through that step by step, slow. And you don't notice. He doesn't notice. But you as a observant viewer, of course you see this happening. You have the distance. You see, okay.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Do you think that, you know, that evil, do you think that's is that a frequency? Is that a consciousness? Is it like what? And is it like you can tune into it and it kind of possesses you because you kind of like you're resonating with that frequency
both.
of evil? Yeah.
I mean, both.
Yeah.
It is, you can feel it. But the problem is that once you've gone into that, you have lost your ability for feeling. So you can't feel it yourself. But if you have that if you're conscious of it, but it's not who you are, then you can feel into it and you will feel the nature of that energy.
Right.
And then you can feel exactly what it is, and you might even get visuals of it or visions and so on. See what kind of spontaneous forms that it creates in consciousness, like demons and that type of thing, you know, like weasels and gremlins and goblins and whatnot.
Yeah.
It gives an impression of the energy behind it. It's reaching. You can often see it like this, like mouths, you know, like opening mouth, like that. It's come. It wants to eat. It's hungry. It's desperate. It's not at calm, at peace. It's not open open to receive you, it wants something from you.
Yeah.
You know, it's desperate. And that's the nature of that energy. It's actually desperate. It's very unpleasant.
And a lot of these celebrities are going down that path. It's almost they're selling their soul to, I don't know, there's some kind of Faustian bargain whereby they sell their souls, but they get like propelled through society to like they get a leg up in society. Like how does that what is that force then? What is that?
That's what we've been talking about. That's the it's the same thing. If you give me something, if you give me affirmation, or you submit to my reality, I'll give you some passage into this what you want. So
right. But that's happening on like this on an we're going like transdimensional now, because we're not even talking about people anymore. We're talking about the energy of evil.
Yeah,
and it works in the same way as if it was a psychotic person, right? It needs that validation, and so it's trading off, right? Okay, so in a way
it's always a trading.
It's a that evil is a consciousness. That's what some people refer to as Satan, or Beelzebub, or whatever. In a way, it is a kind of entity, right? But on an energetic level, and it's doing that same trade-off that you just mentioned there. And certain celebrities are tuning into it and then getting that material leg up in society, but then they're having to sort of give a part of their soul away. They're having to give away a part of their own identity, that their uniqueness.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, I never thought
they
about
have
that.
to commit to it in a way, and for every step you take, you commit more. You commit deeper.
Like that movie, like that you just said within that movie.
Yeah.
What and what do you think this is? It's like, for me, that ultimate evil, it's not just about that trade-off as well. I think there's an inversion of the natural order as well going on. So you actually did a Facebook post, and you said anti-food. Was it like anti-food, anti-nature, anti-woman, anti-sex, it was like you listed all these things which were like everything associated with the natural world, right? It's almost as if that if that's what we're talking about, this evil force, it almost wants to invert that which is like intrinsic to the natural world, and offer this kind of artificial paradigm which has nothing, it's not anchored into into the earth, into the natural realm. And you see that with the war against masculinity, the war against femininity, the war against biological gender, like the no gender, trans agenda. You see that through the inversion, like the destruction of family, even the nuclear home. You see that even through the demonization of like carbon dioxide, which is now like the carbon, like the killer. Even though that is
immune
like,
system,
and the immune, now the immune system,
health,
and the immune system, and your natural health now.
They want to replace all of you that is natural with all artificial things. Not only because they can monetize it, but because, as you said, they want to create a completely inverted artificial reality, which is what they live in, because they're disconnected to everything that is natural and divine and beautiful. That is Satanism. That's the essence of it.
Satan. That for me is Satanism, right? Yeah. It's the complete inversion of the natural order. So for me, that is like, is that not the prerequisite towards transhumanism then? Because in a way, maybe that is just like where it's going. Because if humans go down that path where they're dismissing their own humanity, then the natural conclusion from that, if you take it to its natural conclusion or its artificial conclusion, is everyone's going to turn into cyborgs. They're going to turn into they're going to turn into their own like robots, aren't they?
And people are dumb enough to do that. I mean, there's a lot of people who are so disconnected already and so dismissive of who they are as humans, as souls, everything. They're willing to throw everything away that is worth anything. The only thing they want to keep is their artificial, fantasized self-image. And that's the ego. So that's the least natural thing you have. The least real thing you have.
And then you see it in like the music industry, where they're like the videos are just like my hoes and my bitches and my money and that, like, and my and it's all just nothing about that is coming from the soul self, the core self, the real self. It's just all that ego-based, materialistic, just hoard all this stuff together, and that will make you successful, and you're a real person then, you know.
So what it's like, what you're gonna do with all that stuff if you don't know how to enjoy and feel anything? Like all that money, which can buy all that pussy or whatever, it can buy all that affirmation on a self-image level. What you gonna do with it? Just keep on masturbating your self-fantasy. That's all you can do. You can disconnect yourself from feeling anything. So you've traded that off again and again and again until you can't feel anything anymore. And what kind of reality is that? What you got, I'm not talking about emotions, I'm talking about pure feeling. Feeling good, feeling great, feeling beautiful, feeling divine, feeling open, feeling trusting in life, connected, all the same thing. So unless you know how to do that, you can't ever enjoy anything. You can only enjoy the idea of it. Which is not the same thing. You have a beautiful woman in front of you, but you don't know how to connect with her. How's that going to translate into really pleasure for you if you don't know how to feel her, how to feel yourself, how to feel what your cock does to her inside and what she does to you? If you don't know how to feel these things, what is it all for? It's pointless. So they've chosen another path, and you know, you can't get them out of it. So what we can do is to refuse to confirm their lies. They want to impose on everyone, and just keep on evolving deeper so that we are not vulnerable to these things. The deeper we go, the less vulnerable we become, because we become more sure about the true reality of things. And then you say, after a while, you say, keep your fucking reality. What do I care? The only thing I care about is the people who are on the right side of things, but are still locked in dilemma. They want to live. Of course, we all do. So you want to help them. Many beautiful people, but there are so many you cannot do anything for. They have committed. They don't know that they've done that, but they have committed. And you can't reverse them by speaking to them or by reason or even by energy work or anything like that. They are you can't.
They've gone. You know,
they've gone. You have to just let them go. I have a close family member that's the case with. Mentioned that on message to you. So it's not what you want, how you want it to play out, but it's how it often plays out. And you just feel you can't do anything about it. You don't have that power. You have power over yourself, and you have to have consent of the people if they want to go in that direction. They have to be willing participants. As soon as you start to use force, you're losing yourself. So you can't do that. That's the paradox of this thing, you know. You have to let people go.
You know, it's similar to actually a sexual encounter, right? You have to arouse your partner first and make them moist for you to penetrate them, let's say. I think the
Yes.
same thing has to happen with ideas and like, implanting new ideas into their way of thinking, because if you don't arouse them first and get them warmed up to you, and you just go in there and, like you say, force, that is like intellectual rape, or however you want to call it, isn't it? Like they're not ready to receive, they don't want to receive it.
No.
There has to be some kind of arousal state, even just on a kind of conversational level, to even test the water to see if they want to receive. If not, you just have to walk away.
Yeah, but sure, I mean, I know what you're saying, and it's absolutely true, but it's even better if you have attraction. You can arouse someone that you're not attracted to temporarily to penetrate her.
Yeah.
Sure, but is she gonna come back? But if there is attraction, and you can create real attraction, then immediately there is receptivity, you know. And if you do that attraction from the right place, then the other person will respond from the right place in themselves.
How would you can't really create attraction though, can you? That is just existing. It's just there, isn't it?
It's a good question. You can create it, but you can't force it. You see the difference?
Yeah, how, because for me attraction, it's just there in the electromagnetic world, it's in the energy world.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, you are not passive to energy, you know. So
yeah.
when you work on these things, you all the time you can shift your own energy in different states. You can activate different energies and so on, and you can do that in other people as well, given that they are somehow receptive to it.
Yeah.
So you can create it, because if you know the energy of attraction itself, then you can you generate that. At least you can say you cooperate with it.
Yeah.
Consciously cooperate with it. And then it happens.
How do you cooperate, from the sense of how would you play with it consciously to create attraction then? Like what are you finding within yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you notice that you have insecurities about things, or conflicting thoughts and that kind of thing, you have to you feel what you really want most to feel. And so if that's attraction, you want to go with attraction to another person like that, you have to let what you want speak the loudest, and you have to remove out of your field competing energies, thoughts, impulses, and you go with the strongest energy, or the one you're most attracted to. But sometimes there are things that play in and they capture you, you know, they capture your energy, insecurities, distractions, fears, things that just pop into you. They take you in a different direction. Same with sexual energy. If you are having sex with a woman, what is it that keeps your erection if there is no movement? The answer is that you're tuned in to sexual energy itself. So, and if your mind goes off of that and it goes off into thinking about problems at work, you're going to lose your erection. So it's the same with attraction and sexual energy. They work exactly the same. because they are the same thing in essence. So that's how you do it.
Yeah, it's tuning into that sexual energy, I guess, which is the charge.
Yes, and wanting to feel like with women, like with the feminine, you're basically rigged for attraction as a man naturally.
Yeah,
that's the natural polarity, natural divine electrical charge system. So you don't have to do much in that way. You sort of, if you tune into that wanting to really meet the feminine, that creates attraction by itself. And then you sort of you remove conflicting and competing thoughts and energies. And then that makes your energy become stronger naturally, and you can go deeper into it. That means you can penetrate deeper into the feminine, because that's what you do when you strengthen and purify your energy from disturbances. You penetrate deeper into her, and you experience her from the inside, energetically and physically, of course, through your penis. But both happens. If you're just doing penis, you're not truly penetrating her. You have to penetrate her energetically. That's when she really feels penetrated fully. Her energy body is penetrated by yours. You entered her from the inside. You're feeling her from the inside, and she's feeling you, your presence.
Yeah, just stood next to her. That's it. You can just be stood next to her. Yeah.
So all of this, of course, not all people know this, but it's part of like a natural life to feel some of these things and to feel the mystery of them and to live them to a certain degree as a man and a woman. It's part of natural life. But today, and these people, they're completely disconnected from that. They can't feel any of this. So all they do is to compensate for that basic lack of what they should be connected to. Compensation.
Yeah, with filling the hole.
Yeah. So that filling the hole, that happens on a level of, you could call the basic feminine, archetypal collective feminine in everyone. It's filling the hole.
Is that what it is? It's the unconscious feminine, would you say?
Yeah, the collective, bigger unconscious feminine, she wants to fill the hole. So all kinds of compensations are a response to that universal need. And then on the level of ego, it is affirmation of my reality as real all the time, and trading to get that to happen. And that's how it works at the two different levels, at the levels of the feminine and the level of the ego. And the masculine hardly has any presence in this at all. It's not here. There is hardly any masculinity on earth, contrary to what people think.
Yeah.
Hardly any.
What's the divine masculine then, or or what would you say is the shadow masculine and the divine masculine?
Because we live as men, we try to realize ourselves as men. But we're doing it in all the wrong ways. So we are looking for, in some unconscious way, to find the true power to be with the feminine in the right way. But because we are still boys and we haven't grown up, we are still entangled with mommy. And because we can't produce the right energy to actually meet the real feminine, we have to compensate. We have to create fake stuff to impress her and so on. We think it impresses her, and it only impresses her ego, you know, not the real being. So that's where masculinity is stuck at the level of a boy, sort of a boy/impotent man, impotent energetically man. So it's not real man, it's not real manhood. It's boy impotent man. It's the closest I can put it. Impotent, I mean impotent energetically. Fundamentally, to move the feminine is impotent.
Yeah. And penetrate the world with his...
Same thing.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
It's the same thing.
You know? So his path has to be to stand on his own 2 feet, to be self-reliant, accountable for himself, and get on his path, his hero's journey.
Yeah.
That's the path, isn't it? From boy to man.
Yeah, from boy to man, he has to grow up.
Yeah.
He has to change his notion of the feminine from mother to woman.
To woman, yeah.
To queen, eventually. And he has to accept his destiny. He can't cling to life either, because he's bigger than life. So as long as he clings to life, he can't embrace the fact that he's bigger than life. You see that? So he has to relinquish his attachment not only to mother, but to life itself, to truly become the man he needs to become.
How can you relinquish from life? Sorry.
Well, it's the same as relinquishing from the mother.
Right.
From your neediness, your bonds to the mother, you have to be willing to let it go. That's why people speak about it's in shamanism, it's called a dismemberment process, you know, a death process. You have to let go of yourself, like earthly form and so on, and go into the pure expansion, which goes beyond the world and life, human life, because then you know. As long as you cling, you don't know that, because that's you cling and you hold that in place. That's the thing. So it's not an easy thing, but it's not so big deal as people also think it is. You know, it's people make too much of it in a way, because it happens very naturally once you go through certain processes, and you start to see it yourself where you need to go next. You get an idea. Nobody tells you that. You start to see it yourself, or feel it intuitively, or whatever. And then you do it. You don't have doubts about it, because you don't have conflicting interests anymore, because you realized more and more what life is about. Its true purpose.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Very good chat. Very, very good chat. Probably the longest one I've done, just because it's so engaging. There's so much.
Once you begin, you know, these things, it's not so easy to just say, hit the stop button. You get into it, and then it flows.
Yeah.
And then it's you just want to continue until you feel like, okay, we covered it now.
We covered it. Yeah, I feel like my belly's full, in a good way, not in like the filling a whole sense, but I feel nourished.
Yes.
I feel nourished by that, you know. Yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant, Espen. Yeah, your stuff's brilliant. I have to say, because when your post on Facebook, that's what kind of really first struck me. It's just, they're potent. They come from that that somatic intelligence, that core knowing, that truth, you know, and that's why I really vibe with you. And it's just very unfiltered, very uncensored. But in the same way, it doesn't, I don't know, it's still written in a very mature way, and it's hard to sort of pick holes out of it. Even if people really came from the opposite side of view, they would still, I don't know, I still feel as though they respect it in a way. That's a gift you've got. I think when I write something, it's very much just like, you know, piss everyone off.
That's the thing that people feel instinctively where they can attack. If there are some gaps or holes, they'll go for that. There's predatorial setup in between humans, and it's okay that it is, because it makes us more solid. You know, you tighten your holes, you become more whole yourself. You don't leak anymore. You become more integrated. And then you become sort of a bit untouchable after a while. Without really trying to be, you just become
fearless in a way.
Yeah.
I've actually noticed that within myself. Like, I like that not leaking. I do feel as though I've kind of managed to integrate myself to the point where things just wash over me now, and I'm able to keep moving forward with my message, whatever it is, and just it's just like everything. It's just like Aikido or whatever, you know. Just but yeah, Espen,
it's a good feeling.
No, it's great, man. It's great. And I do feel it is almost like invincible, not in the sense of like being dominating, but just invincible as in invincibility through flexibility, or invincibility through softness, if you like. Like, I'm not rigid, I'm not brittle. It's not like a china plate that would smash into pieces. It's more like a kind of a piece of hard rubber, you know, like you can keep banging into me, but it's just not going to affect me. I'm just very, that's more like the feeling, if you know what I mean. That's how, and I've worked on that. It's taken a lot of, it's not easy, but you know, it's a lot of self-exploration work that's gone into that.
For sure.
Yeah. And a lot of dropping down into my body and feeling the pain, and, you know, and it's like layers of the onion coming off. It's like a lot, like once one comes off, another one and another one. And, you know, you get triggered with something else, and then you get like, and you know, that's another layer of the wound that needs to be addressed. And then it's onto the next one, onto the next. That's my path anyway.
Yeah, no, I understand it, and it's right. You need to, like what you spoke about what you spoke about now, the wounds and all that. We need to face them sooner or later. And then we go through them. You know, you just become more and more solid like that. You're not stopping to become, you're not stopping being vulnerable, but you are, I call it dignified vulnerability. It's sort of, you face vulnerability openly. You don't run away from it. You don't shy away from it. You face, because when you can feel yourself more and more, you notice the areas where you still are vulnerable, and you go into them. Right? You feel them consciously. And then it heals. You transcend it, and becomes just, the whole energy of it becomes transformed, trusting, not panicked.
It's secure in your insecurity, certain in your uncertainty, and just walking into it all from a place of openness and rawness and vulnerability.
And also not taking oneself too seriously, you know. That's like another part of it also, and being a bit light-hearted with oneself, you know.
Well, that's the child spirit I was talking about earlier. Like having
but also the man spirit, you know. The generosity,
the curiosity,
the bigness.
What do you mean by bigness? Like you said, that with grandness, like you said that.
Like bigness, it's like the opposite of petty, you know. If you are like Princess
I see what you mean. A certain
if you get yourself hung up on every little thing that somebody says about you, for example, or you don't like, they say, or you don't like about yourself, and you start to nitpick on all those things, that's a petty, you get petty, you get small. instead of relaxing into your bigness, and then most of these things just vanish by themselves. And those things that don't vanish by themselves, you deal with from that bigness in yourself, you know, even though you can feel the pull of the smallness in you, the ones that want to pull you into low self-feeling, like fear, deep insecurity, and so on. You can feel that it wants to pull you into it, but instead you are facing it openly from your bigness, and without fear, but also without rejecting or denying it or rejecting it in any way. And the energy dissolves from that, and it becomes integrated into your bigness gradually. Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, it does take time.
It tends to reappear and reappear and reappear until it stops appearing. You know, it stops being a part of your life.
Yeah.
But then before that, it reappears like more or less psychically. Like every few weeks, comes back again, and then comes back again.
That's what I think the breakups in my relationships have been for, on some spiritual level, psychic level, whatever you want to call it. They're there to show me that part of myself that I haven't healed. And if I don't do it with that person, it will bring another stage character into my life to make me go through that process to then, you know, it's like I'm projecting, I'm casting that out to bring in these stage theater actors with me to create this role play, to then mirror the parts of me that are unhealed, to then go through that pain, smash open my heart, you know, and then to heal those parts of myself deep within. That's for me is what I've noticed.
Yeah, you could put it like that, or you could put it like we put it earlier also, like everyone is basically still predatory. Also, everyone will still pick out the spots where you are leaking and dig into them, because that's where they can get something from you. You don't always meet beautiful, conscious, compassionate beings. You learn also from vampires and parasites who get you on certain stuff. They exploit your weaknesses, you know? So, but you can use them in a healing way.
Yeah.
Still, you know?
Well, like, see, go, that's a part of me that I need to address using.
Yeah, for sure. Because you can see they are sucking, they are getting you on it.
Yeah.
They're finding your weaknesses and using it against you. So there are both. There are predators, and there are also true healers, of course, that walk around on Earth and want to be available to go through such processes in a true way, you could say, in a positive way.
Yeah, and help other people, and
yeah.
Espen, just quickly, do you want to mention your website?
Yeah, it's Espen Roed, ROED.com. That's it. So that's just a place to start, to get some introduction to what I work with, and see what resonates, and do what you want with it.
It's good stuff. Yeah. Thanks, Espen. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it.